After the Second World War, the map of Berlin presented a bizarre geographical paradox. A fully capitalist enclave sat right in the middle of a newly formed socialist state, East Germany. For over a decade, citizens could freely cross the street from one political reality to another. People immediately learned how to exploit this open border. East Berliners commuted to the West every morning to earn wages in a much stronger currency, while West Berliners walked over to the East to get their haircuts and buy groceries at heavily subsidized cheaper prices. The two systems entered a visual competition to outdo one another. In West Berlin, shop windows filled up with the latest consumer goods and brand-name products, broadcasting an image of material abundance. Meanwhile, just a few streets away, the East German government poured its resources into massive projects like Stalinallee, erecting towering, symmetrical boulevards designed to showcase the monumental grandeur of socialist architecture. But East Germany had a massive leak. Over 2 million citizens realized they didn't have to stay in a struggling, restrictive economy. They could pack a single bag, take the subway 3 stops into West Berlin, and permanently start a new life. By 1961, this mass exodus was draining East Germany of its youngest, most educated workers. The open border was simultaneously wrecking their economy and embarrassing the state on the global stage. On the morning of August 13, 1961, the citizens of Berlin woke up to find their city physically cut in two. East German troops closed the border overnight, splitting families and neighborhoods apart without a single word of warning. The initial barrier was a rushed, chaotic mess of loose fences and heavy coils of barbed wire rolled across the streets. This early version was full of gaps. If you knew the patrol routes, you could find unguarded stretches, take a running start, and simply jump over the wire into the west. Realizing the wire wasn't enough, East German authorities immediately started bringing in heavy concrete blocks. Due to material shortages, they could only reinforce scattered sections at first, piecing together a more permanent blockade wherever they could. This initial fence functioned as a desperate political statement rather than an effective fortress. Because the barrier was still so porous, its sudden appearance triggered a frantic wave of citizens making final, daring runs for the border. The line dividing east and west didn't always follow empty streets. In several places, the exact border ran directly along the front doors of East Berlin apartment blocks. The sidewalk was the west, the living rooms were the east. People started leaving from our own windows to escape. The state responded by forcing families out of their homes and filling every street-facing window with heavy masonry. The apartments themselves became part of the wall. But humans are fallible, and sometimes the builders missed a spot. In August 1962, an 18-year-old bricklayer named Peter Fechter discovered one of these border houses with a single unbricked window. Peter and his friend Helmut creep inside and spot their chance. It's a straight shot, an open window, a quick run to a fence, and then freedom. Hearing voices behind them, they sprint for the barrier. Border guards immediately open fire. Helmut dashes through a haze of bullets and hauls himself over the concrete, but Peter freezes in terror at the base of the wall. Urged on by his friend's screams, Peter finally makes a desperate jump. But as he reaches the top, a bullet strikes his pelvis. He slumps backward, falling into the eastern dirt. For 50 agonizing minutes, Peter lay bleeding on the ground, crying out for help. A crowd gathered on the western side, and guards watched from the east, but no one intervened. He bled to death exactly where he fell. Peter's death was a public spectacle, and it clarified exactly what East Germany was willing to do. Rather than reform their system, they would use lethal force against their own people. The state began designing a massive, automated upgrade for the border. By 1975, the border had become a deep, multi-layered military zone. This diagram illustrates a cross-section of the entire span as it existed in its final, most lethal form. Approaching from the east, a citizen would only see this initial visual barrier. It was built high to block the view of the deadly mechanics behind it, making it impossible to plan a route across. If you managed to clear that first wall, you would land directly on Stalin's grass. These were ground mats armed with steel needles, designed to pierce the feet and shatter the ankles of anyone jumping down. Right past the spikes sat a tightly strung barbed wire signal fence. Pushing or cutting this wire instantly triggered a silent electronic alarm in a nearby watchtower. Behind the signal fence were rows of metal tank traps, meant to stop vehicles from ramming through. This sat right next to a paved path used by heavily armed patrols and attack dogs. Finally, any escapee had to cross the death strip. This was a massive expanse of carefully raked dirt, brightly illuminated by floodlights. There was zero cover. You were entirely exposed while running for the final concrete barrier. Those watchtowers were manned by soldiers 24 hours a day. And those guards operated under a strict, undeniable order: shoot anyone on sight. The entire complex functioned as a highly optimized feat of engineering. The state took the physical geography of Berlin and mechanized it, turning urban space into a tool for ideological captivity. To construct the final western-facing barrier, East German engineers created concrete slabs with a distinct L-shaped foot at the bottom. This flat base meant they could drop the segments directly onto the ground without digging deep foundation holes. They capped the top edge with smooth asbestos concrete pipes. If an escapee somehow made it across the death strip, these rounded pipes offered absolutely nothing for their hands to grip onto. This specific engineering choice created a massive unintended consequence. By smoothing out 45,000 concrete slabs to prevent climbing, East Germany accidentally built a flawless blank canvas facing West Berlin. West Berliners quickly took advantage. The entire western side of the wall became saturated with dense, colorful graffiti. Citizens painted massive artworks, slogans, and jokes, directly mocking the authoritarian government sitting just inches away on the other side. The structure that defined the Cold War ultimately served two completely contradictory purposes. Inside the death strip, it was a lethal, hyper-engineered cage, but on the outside, it became a sprawling billboard celebrating the exact freedom of expression it was built to keep out.